hectopascals, and we look at how far we are from the ground. And the coloring here is actually a topographical map showing how the high pressures and low pressures are distributed a little bit higher up in the atmosphere. The yellowish side or the warm colors represent high pressure conditions, and the green colors, or cooler colors, represent more low pressure. And you can also see some white lines there if you look carefully. That is actually showing the mean sea level pressure, so you can actually get an understanding of what's going on at the surface as well. So it's like a three-dimensional picture in a way. Okay, next please. So looking at the history here, this is how the week turned out actually, and we can actually run it through. You can see how there is a dynamics going on from where we have this movement from the west. Next slide. And you can see how a high pressure ridge builds up there to the west on Wednesday. And that's what gave us the wonderful conditions we had last Thursday, if you remember. It was really summer. And then it went on and moved further to the west. We're still in a little bit of a high pressure conditions yesterday, but if you move on to the next, we can see how we are being attacked by a new low pressure system in the west, whereas we also see you can see the high pressure building up from the south as well. So there's a little bit of a tug of war between the low pressure in the north and the high pressure in the south. And also you can see here that these white isobars at the sea surface, they're quite tightly packed, and the wind is basically blowing along those with a little bit of an angle, but it's a good approximation at least, you can say. And you can see that this seems to indicate that we have northwesterly or west-northwesterly winds over the race course tomorrow by the start. Yeah. So and if you scroll on to next, there is during a day into the race. This is Monday, where we expect a lot of the boats to be close to Hoburian, perhaps, and. We can still see that we have this northwesterly flow. If you go back one more, back, yep, exactly. You can see we're still in this general northwesterly stream, and it's quite windy there too. We will actually see even gale force gusts, most likely. We can have maybe up to 35 or even 40 knots in the gusts. So be prepared for that on your way down to Fårö and Gotska Sandön and those locations on the leg from Svenska Högen. Okay, next please. But what happens the next few hours is that the high pressure starts to replace the low pressure. The low pressure has moved to the east. High pressure builds up, and it actually had split this low pressure that was in the north into two pieces. The one which moves on to the right, which is the one that has been affecting us, but you can also see the high pressure there. Next please. And you can see more and more of the influence of the high pressure. Now we're at Wednesday, and you can see that most of the high pressure that has its center over Poland has actually moved eastwards. And that's why we see the wind turning to become a little bit more from the southwest. Yeah. Looking at the temperature, also a little bit up in the atmosphere, this is about some 1.5 kilometers. It's really good to look at the three-dimensional picture of the weather if you want to understand the dynamics of it. You can see that this is blue. It indicates generally cold conditions, and of course the warm colors indicate warmth. And you can see here, if you scroll to the next, that we see the high pressure with the warm air building up and coming more and more over the race course. Next. And this is what's happened. You can see Tuesday here. We're well into the warmer, more stable conditions. It's also worth mentioning that we will see a lot more gusts in the northwesterly flow than we will see during the second part of the race, where wind will be quite variable probably, but it will not be as gusty. So, in terms of weather, this is why we're here really. To present it in a more normal way, I would say, maybe we again scroll back to the weather on. Oops, sorry. Take the next one again, please. Yeah. So this is the starting conditions again. Fair weather with the northwesterly flow, and this low pressure system here is the one that is govern the northwesterly flow over us. Okay, next please. There will be a little bit of clouds and probably no rain, but a little bit more cloud conditions coming in over the night and over the next day, that is Monday. But what is the general condition is that we will have quite windy still up until midday at least. Yeah. Next, please. And from a weather point of view, you can see that the sun continues to shine mostly on Tuesday as well. So I think you can leave. Well, you might not like me afterwards if I'm wrong, but you could leave your umbrellas at home, I think. There could be maybe some shower in on the Sunday evening, maybe. But yeah. All right. Okay, so let's look at the winds at 10 meters altitude. Now we're close to the surface, as you can see. Okay. These arrows show the direction of the wind, meaning that you might be familiar with it, but this indicates the westerly flow here in general. This is at the start, where we have like 15 to 20 knots of wind. Dashed areas, which you can see in some locations, up here for instance, indicate that the wind might be gusty, and that is due to unstable atmospheric conditions, typical for this kind of cold air mass we are in at the moment. Okay, next please. So this is where several of the boats have rounded Svenska Högarna and are on their way southwards. You can see here a little bit more gusts indicated here by the dashed fields. And you can also see that the wind tends to be quite variable in direction along this. So it's a little bit uncertain exactly. Well, what is certain is that it's not exactly like this is going to be. It's going to be slightly different from it. That is the certainty in meteorology, I think. Okay, next slide, please. The wind seems to continue on the northwesterly or west-northwesterly, or maybe even westerly, you could say, flow during the night on Monday. Next. Weakening as we come towards the southern parts of Gotland. Here, of course, it's relevant to consider if you should go close to Gotland, perhaps going a little bit of a shorter track, but also risking that you end up in a little bit weaker winds there. So that might be a strategic thing to figure out on your way down there, looking at other boats and so on. Okay, next please. Here, the high pressure has started to take control when we're later on Monday and maybe even Tuesday. You can see that the wind has actually started to introduce some southerly components as well. So the wind is more like southwester. But here it becomes very uncertain. With these high pressures, when they build up, they are really hard to predict because the gradients are fairly weak and so on. But this is at least the best forecast at the moment, I think. And you can scroll on. Hopefully we will have a continued westerly or southerly flow that will help the boats going northwards, which might be a little bit for the quick boats that might be already here when this, if this actually happens. Remember, we're really far down in the forecast here, so it could be it's very uncertain over here. Next please. Yeah, you can roll on from this. So in general, we will expect some winds to be, well, a little bit weaker at least towards the end due to dependence of the high pressure system. Okay, next please. Looking a little bit at currents, ocean currents. It seems that in general, I don't have many plots of these, but it seems to be sort of that the wind, the current is going mostly from the west, shifting your position a little bit to the east, but the current is also fairly weak. It doesn't show very well here, but it's 0.25 knots or so. And you will be crossing that mostly when you go down to southwards. On Monday there seems to be a little bit more strengthening of a current on the eastern side of Gotland. But these current maps are really uncertain, so I wouldn't pay too much attention to it. Although of course you wouldn't probably be hurt being a little bit out from Gotland from a current point of view at least. Next please. Okay, so I'm trying to show here development through the race for an average size boat, which I did some routing for, and you can here is the wind in general that such a boat would expect. I think it was the first 40.7 or something that I just put in there as a sort of a typical representative boat of the fleet. And as you can see, the strongest winds are late. Early I would say. It's it comes here in, this is early Monday. And then it gradually weakens. And you can see that the wind direction mostly stays with a westerly component, with the shifts coming in here later in the race. Quite possible that you will also see southwesterlies there. Next, please. And also waves. There will be quite significant waves during the strong winds in the beginning, a little bit over 1 meter probably of wave height. But then it will fade out after that. So it will be a little bit of a tough start, but then everything will be a little softer afterwards. Okay, next please. And the temperature will, as we get into the warmer high pressure, you can see that the second half of the race, you can see that temperature tends to rise a little bit there. And also, obviously, pressure rises as well. Okay, next please. This is a table I wanted to show you, sort of a template of what we could expect for this kind of average size boat. And I have highlighted some areas where we have really strong winds. So I wanted to be prepared for those. This start will be like in 15 to 20 knots of wind speeds from the west, gusting up 25 to even up to 30 in the start. I have sort of stretched this. This is a possibility. I think actually it might not get 30, but it's still a possibility. So I wanted to be on the safe side there. And that goes for the next leg as well, from Sandhamn to Svenska Högarna, which is just after the start, obviously. Westerly winds in general, same wind speed, but the gusts could probably increase a little bit, as we saw also in the maps earlier on. Then we have this long leg from Svenska Högarna towards Gotska Sandön plus Fårö. Northwesterly winds increasing a little bit there probably to 20 to 25, and the gusts could be gale force there up to 30 to 45 to be prepared for. So again, mostly quite rough conditions, coming in at about cross. Well, it would be a beam reach probably. And then further south, outside Gotland, wind tends to reduce a little bit, and still could remain a little bit gusty, but not as much as previously. And then when you round Hoburgen and then turn on the inside, the winds tend to be fairly weak. This would be on Monday. I expect this kind of boat at least to round Hoburgen by midday Monday. And after that, much weaker wind conditions in general. And then the final sprint then from Visby to the finish. Hopefully we will have some winds there, but it might be fluky. It could also be quite variable in direction. But in general, what I would say is that the first part of the race will have fairly unstable conditions with these gusts, whereas the second part will be less stable in direction and maybe wind speed, but not as gusty. So much more calmer conditions towards the second half. Yeah, I think that's it. I wish you all a wonderful race. I think we have very good conditions for this. Stay safe. It will be windy and wavy in the beginning, but things will smoothen out a little bit. Thank you very much for listening.